I called 911. The person who answered was not a police officer. The other officer crouched down to my level, his eyes searching mine. "Can you describe the man who came to your door?" he asked. "Nurse Marbus," I murmured, remembering the name tag. He wore a red uniform and he had 2 assistants. Their van was full of weird tools. The officers' faces turned ashen as they exchanged a fearful glance. "Nurse Marbus?" the policewoman repeated into her radio, her voice cracking. She began to frantically search her records on a small device, her hands shaking. The male officer continued to speak with me, but his eyes were wide with shock. They worked in panicked coordination, reaching out to other units and checking databases. Finally, the policewoman looked up to her partner, her face white as a sheet. Her voice was trembling as she started talking. "The name Marbus belongs to a man who used to work for the city's medical services, but he died in a terrible accident over 20 years ago. The details were horrifying, and it was said that he had been conducting some unlicensed experiments." My heart pounded in my ears as I processed her words. "Dead? What's going to happen to my mom?" I asked, tears welling in my eyes. "I just want her back. We're going to do everything we can to find her," the male officer assured me, but I could see the fear in his eyes. A full year went by since the officer unconfidently muttered those words to me. Exactly 5 full years since my mother went missing. That was when I first received a phone call. I first heard the ringing on my landline and ran over to it to hear a deep male voice. "Hello, young man. Everything is going just fine. She sends her love." That was all he said before ending the call. At least that evil man had the decency to check up on me. I told the police, I told my family, I did everything I possibly could to somehow locate this number back to my mother. But there was nothing that could be done. The police spent weeks trying to locate where the call came from, but they couldn't. I had to do something myself. Feeling helpless and desperate, I eventually turned to hiring a private investigator, hoping that someone outside the conventional system might have more success. The investigator I hired was a middle-aged man named Leonard, who had a reputation for being able to find people when no one else could. After a few weeks, Leonard finally got back to me with a lead. He had managed to reverse the phone number, pinpointing it to a landline that was located inside a large commercial building on the outskirts of the city. Interestingly, there were no public records indicating any businesses or residences at that address. Knowing the police would be no use, Leonard and I decided to take a trip to the location. It was a cold night, the moon hidden behind a thick blanket of clouds, plunging the world into an eerie darkness. When we arrived at the building, there were no lights visible from outside. The only indication that someone was there was the faint humming of a generator, despite the entire building looking completely abandoned. Behind the building, I noticed a few large waste bins. Out of curiosity, I approached one of them and found a discarded envelope with a logo imprinted on it. The logo read, Lustrum Pharmaceuticals. I showed it to Leonard and he raised an eyebrow. "Lustrum Pharmaceuticals went under a long time ago," he murmured. "They were rumored to be involved in some shady experimental treatments." The information was enough to finally bring the police back into the fold. We returned to the station and presented everything to the detectives, including the logo and Leonard's findings. They were skeptical at first, but when they realized that the clues pointed towards a defunct company linked